cold case, I don't know. It's not cold right now because technically there's a deadline coming up, at 5 o'clock. So that's going to be a huge mile marker. Let's see what happens before and after that. Also, a lot of investigators on this case. We have seen FBI, local authorities all over, the area surrounding the two homes. So definitely not cold in that nature. How are they receiving the ransom notes? Great question. TMZ, I believe, has reported that they got it through an email. And then I believe the other local news stations here have also indicated that it was likely digital, so likely email. But I have not seen any of these notes myself. They're understandably being kept very private, so I can't confirm that. But that is my impression. I haven't heard anyone saying it was mailed in or delivered or something of that nature. And then I believe Harvey Levin has gone into detail saying how the email he received is untraceable. They use the sender uses technology that hides where it comes from, the email. How have they verified these ransom notes are real? They have not. No, we don't know that they're real. No one has come out to say they're real. And that's the great question here, I think, is number one, are they real? But are they linked to the disappearance? Meaning, is this the original captor who's now looking for their payout, or are these all just fakes? Are they decoys? Are they fakes? Are they mentally unstable people who are trying to get money or get attention? Don't forget there was a guy in Los Angeles who was arrested and federally charged for sending text messages to some members of the Guthrie family asking for Bitcoin. He figured out, I believe it was the sister Annie and her husband. He figured out their numbers, which is really not that hard to do this day. If you're not hiding your number, it's pretty findable. He figured out their numbers and he texted them and asked for Bitcoin. He was arrested. So are all these other ransom notes just that as well? Are they fakes? We don't know. But it looks like the family certainly is treating them as possibly being authentic, trying to communicate with these people, asking for proof of life. And also, I would imagine that Savannah and her siblings are also, getting guidance from investigators. So they certainly haven't disputed them, at least publicly. And don't forget, they're asking for a deadline of 5 o'clock local, which is in about 5 hours from now. So, God forbid something should or shouldn't happen at that hour, other than Mrs. Guthrie being returned. Are they looking at family members as suspects? This is a question that's come up a lot, and because we all know that when a person goes missing, investigators turn to their loved ones first, right? So I actually personally inquired with the Pima County Sheriff's Office, and this was a while ago. This was kind of early last week, and the Pima County Sheriff's Office told me that, of course, family members are always questioned in these scenarios. The sheriff would not say they're ruling out family, but also would not say family or suspect. So you know how that goes. They don't give you something definitive, but they're acknowledging the possibility. So that certainly is a possibility. No authority has come out to say any individual has been ruled out. That would be a big development in this case, something we're certainly watching for. So that's a very good question. I believe the brother-in-law, Tommaso, was the last person that we are aware of to see Nancy after driving her home from their house on Saturday night. Okay, if you have any other questions, let me know. We're going to be here on the ground for a while. The Nancy's house and the sister's house, Annie's house, are pretty quiet today. But in a moment.
What's up, Mella? This is there. It look at no ransom. Let me tell y'all something. No way. So first of all, let's break down the potential charges that, let's just say, there are kidnappers, what they're facing, right? It's automatic life sentence. That's one, right? Then if she dies in their custody or in their custody, that's special circumstances. They're talking about potential death penalty. So ain't gonna be no two ransom notes. Ain't gonna be no two ransom notes. It's gonna be one ransom note. Get that, that's a wrap. Ain't gonna be no world here. So for example, right, if I'm doing this, I'm just gonna hypothetically look at this, right? If I was to do something like this, I would send you one ransom note. You got one ransom note. You got 1 hour to get them Bitcoins, and you need to make it happen. If you do not make this deadline, there is no second deadline. There's too much at stake here. I got an 84-year-old woman who's going to die any second, or if not already dead. I need that ASAP. I'm sending this proof of life, everything off the top. Video, send that. If she doesn't make that first deadline, it's over. You'll never hear from me or see from me again. So if I say, hey, you got 1 hour to send that money, then you don't make the deadline, I'm not going to send you a second letter saying, well, hey, you missed the first deadline. Now I'm going to give you another deadline. What the fuck? I know the FBI, CIA, DEA, and every law enforcement is on my ass right now. I ain't got time to be sitting around waiting for some money. You got 1 hour. You got 1 hour. And I think that's kind of long. Wire that Bitcoin to this account. And that's that. So that gives you very little time to try to conjure up something. And if you don't make that hour, I'm out the motherfucking country. Or I'm somewhere. Your mom, you'll never. It's over. I might let her go, drop off at a bus station or something, and keep it pushing. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to send a second ransom. Dude, the whole federal fucking government's watching. So if you send that money now, they're going to trace that. I don't care if it's Bitcoin, Itcoin, Witcoin. They're going to trace that shit. Then I'm not coming out. The money's done. So this is totally this is totally immature, right? This is very unprofessional type shit. So we can presume that there is no kidnapping. We can assume that my theory, I have another theory. My theory is when they entered that house, they deaded her. She was dead before she left out that house. Or wherever they buried her body at. All this is just a distraction. It's a reflection. They're deflecting. Hey, kidnap to deflect. Right? From the original people. Oh, well, chase some mysterious kidnappers. And then they're getting on here, not one, but two deadlines, 2 letters. Please give our mom back. We will pay. Shoot proof of life. Come on. This is, and law enforcement just playing along with it. They know that this is highly unlikely. Come on. Ain't nobody moving. When you got an 84 woman, she's damaged goods, and she's dying any second, you ain't got time to be sitting waiting on 4 or 5. I don't care if she was healthy. I don't even care if she was 25. Matter of fact, I don't care if she was 10. If whenever I'm kidnapping, you got 1 hour. That's it. That's a life sentence. We talking about potential death penalty. Death penalty, special circumstance and phase. So I ain't got time to sit here and play a game with one of the most powerful, probably the most powerful police force in the world, the federal government, and the paramilitary, which is the LAPD or the Phoenix PD, right? But the federal government has unlimited resources. I'm not going to play that game. So obviously, there's not a kidnapping. It's not a kidnapping. So we know it ain't a revenge. We can rule that out. It's not a revenge kidnapping. Oh, I hate you. You did something to me when I was 15, whatever. Because they would have said that in the note. The ransom was asked for. So we know that this is a fake kidnapping used as a distraction from the real. They murdered her. See, most likely, there's an insurance policy. That house, right? She has a will. Shit going places. Annie is who they're suspecting. They've been at Annie's house. They've been at Annie's house all day. They done set up camp over there, which is her daughter. You're looking at Annie and her husband, right? They're in their house taking pictures, wiping down for a second time. So obviously, law enforcement understands they're probably treating this as a homicide. Let's listen to some more.
So that can all change, and we'll keep an eye on the Bitcoin reports because we'll see if there's any movement there. My impression is if there was a confirmed, proof of life, if there was a confirmed captor here, a hostage taker, and someone had confirmed to the Guthrie family or investigators that they definitively have Nancy Guthrie, there probably would have been a payment, right? I mean, who would have paid for their mother? So the fact that has not happened more than a week later now kind of makes you question if these ransom notes are real or if they're linked to the disappearance at all. We had a former FBI assistant director on our air saying, like, you really have to question if this is a kidnapping or if there's other possibilities. Especially since someone was arrested in LA for asking for Bitcoin payment, right? So we already know there's one fake out there. Okay, correspondent Matt Finn, I'll be on the ground. And thank you for tuning in and listening to me ramble on. It is, I know, I was just up in Minneapolis for almost a month, and it was, about -10 every day there. And I know a lot of people across the country are still dealing with absolutely freezing weather. So to be standing out here right now in 78 degrees is wild in February. So not hard to see why Mrs. Guthrie ended up here. All right, have a great day. Be safe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Matt Finn on social media. DM me if you got any information or any questions. Okay, bye-bye.
So there is obviously a lot of doubt here, right? A lot of doubt hanging in the air about this kidnapping. People are starting less and less believe it. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Because there ain't no way. Ain't no way that you're going to have any sort of.
Breaking moments ago, TMZ was reporting that the Bitcoin account allegedly set up to accept the funds, the money, in exchange for Nancy Guthrie remains empty at this hour. An apparent ransom deadline of 5 p.m. Arizona time is fast approaching. So, yeah, now we're 4.5 hours away. You and I were talking off camera, and I know you can't share every detail. But when it comes to even an IP address to figure out the ransom note and maybe what's coming next in this whole thing after that 5 p.m. deadline, you can get to that. You can't tell us every detail, but what can you share?
Right. So there's different elements that we're looking at right now. You're looking at the ransom emails, right? That's in and of itself its own topic.
Let's start there.
The masked IP addresses. People think, I'm going to send an email. It's going to be masked. No one's ever going to track me down. False. The FBI has the ability to unmask IP addresses. I know because I've done it, and I've seen it happen in large cases that have gone to court and been federally upheld. And so it is.
It's not what the family is presenting, is it? I think it's what the family's presenting. I believe the family said, I believe they all in on it. At first, I was thinking, Savannah, she got money, because usually kidnappings, most people want money, right? Right? When it comes to ransoms, right? When it comes to ransoms, there's only really, there's 3 forms of kidnapping that really exist, right? Ransom, revenge, you killed somebody's homeboy, now they got your girl and your wife tied up, and they want you to come so they can take you out or whatever, right? And then you have sex trafficking. That's it. But the ransom, that hasn't been done in like over 60 years. Nobody does that because America has a very fierce and respectable reputation for not paying ransoms, right? So why would the family take this route? I think it's more of a deflection, right? Because here's the thing, Mella. For them to make an arrest or move or make a proper charge, they have to have a body. Yes. If they hid that body 20, 30 miles away. This might go on for another however long, right? Because there is no, this is always, I guess there's no murders. They could investigate the shit for 100 years, right? So yeah, they're the family. Obviously, we know it's family, right? Because they knew them cameras that when they busted that house, they knew exactly, right? Last person to see them was Annie and her husband. Those are the last two seen her alive, or walking into her house, whatever. So therefore, whoever did this was very well informed about the house. They knew her habits. They went and knocked on the door and came in there, blunt force trauma to the head, and took her out. And then help came along. I believe the other guy who I believe it was two guys, right? Because she's 84 years old. That's a heavy body to move. She wasn't a little, really tiny woman, but it takes two people to move that body. Took that body, put it in probably some truck or some van or something, and took it on out where they took it. Now, they'd have been stupid or really stupid, depending on the property of Ann's property or Nancy. They're gonna find that body. But let me say this: if they find that body, there's going to be indictments and all kinds of charges coming down on Ann and her husband, and maybe Savannah. I don't know. But right now they can't charge nobody because they can't prove she's dead or alive. Right? Of course, do they believe that there's kidnappers? No. I don't think the investigators believe that there's true kidnappers. Because this is, but they can't prove it's not no kidnappers either. See what I'm saying? So and then they can't prove it's a murder. That's why they're back at the property again, looking for clues, looking for more evidence. They said they found DNA at the crime scene again. They're going over the property to find. They're at Annie's property and then they're at Nancy's property, right? They're going to phone records, everything. Now, whoever did this planned this pretty good. They probably planned this for like a no body, no case fact. Unless somebody talks about it. Now, if somebody starts talking, then yeah, one of the families must say, I feel guilty. We did this, we did that. Then yeah, that's the case. But if everybody stays quiet, you're right. No body, no case, and it has to be open case. Unless some camera footage or something comes up, they need that body. If they find that body, the bowling ball is going to fucking move, and they will be charged with murder 100%. They would be, because then it would become a homicide. It would go kidnapping to a homicide, and then they would start asking, "Where were you at this time?" Because then the forensics and all the people can determine the time of death, how she died, which body, whatever they could look from that body, and they could determine, and then they could get a timeline, and then they could start questioning, well, where were you at this time? Where were you at that time? Then they would have to have alibis.
Absolutely possible, but what it requires is digging through certain layers of information. That does take time, but it is possible.
Do you think 9 days are enough time?
That's a good question. Like I said, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and so law enforcement is not going to show their hand right now. They're not going to show everything that they're capable of doing. Certainly not the FBI, because that's what they do. They keep it quiet and confidential to maintain the integrity of the investigation. But I think you've got the ransom email. Again, we've all been talking about it. It's either legitimate, they're a hoax, or they're a false flag and a distraction. And we're about to find out. Those ransom emails may have absolutely nothing to do with Nancy and her whereabouts. But on the flip side, they may. And that's, again, what the family's working with the FBI to determine what's the legitimacy of this. Now, when we look at the masking of the IP addresses, that's one way to mask their identity. The other way that everyone's talking about is Bitcoin. Back in the day, it was, hey, we'll give you cash. Hey, we'll send it here. Not anymore. Bitcoin is highly sophisticated for individuals, and it is something that we knew that in the FBI we were getting trained on their techniques, and they use it for a purpose. But every single transaction is recorded and documented on the blockchain, and that is visible. You can see that. But what you may not be able to see initially is a non-traceable wallet. But again, with certain investigative techniques and things that the FBI can do, they can get to the bottom of that. But the key is, if you ever want to cash in that money, so let's say you get $6 million, what good is that if you can't actually utilize that? In order to cash that in with a U.S. institution, you're going to have to provide a name, a social security number, identifiers in order to use that. You could let it sit in the wallet indefinitely, but what good is that? Or, again, I'm not going to go into any ideas. There's other things that, again, the FBI, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you better. So, Paul, the end-to-end transaction, if you will, the beginning of it with the money in the account hasn't happened. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I think it means that there is no level of trust there from the Guthrie family because they have not gotten any proof of life. And I think that there's got to be still some real question as to whether or not the two notes are coming from the people who actually have their mother, because proof of life is comparatively simple. You can come up with something that's very unique, very idiosyncratic from, let's say, Savannah's childhood or something like that. Even if you don't want to put the mother on camera or something like that, but you could do that too.
Why couldn't you put the mother on camera?
You could. They may be worried about the comms. Is it traceable? Is the metadata going to show something that the FBI can pull out? And the good news here is that you got the FBI who are the best at this. So that's one
and
of the
AI.
At this AI stuff, at tracing AI, because you can use AI against AI, tracing the Bitcoin, all of that stuff, that goes on. Think of it as a pocketbook that everybody can see. The problem for them is that when you go to it, you can't buy, groceries with Bitcoin yet anyway. So when they go to take it out, that's, as I was talking about earlier, that's the vulnerability. And that's the thing that you are hoping you can see at some point. But as I said earlier, if it happens someplace that you can't get to, North Korea or something, then, you're sunk.
Donna?
I mean, do we have to think, and Nicole, you may be able to answer this, do we have to think that the letters that they have, these two letters, that the FBI must think that there's some validity to them? Because as we've seen, there's already been arrests for people who have sent fake notes. So, there must be some level there where they feel like there's some validity here, or otherwise, wouldn't they have made arrests already? Like, if they can figure out that some are fake, why do we not know a little bit more about these at this point?
Right. So again, without going into the details of what's happening behind the scenes, they're not going to close the door on any potential piece of evidence. Let's say that they think something is or is not legitimate. The FBI, their key is open communication. They want as many data points.
In my opinion, the FBI and the police, what's up, No Chaser? They're looking for a body. That's what they're looking. That's their main focus now. They want a body. I believe law enforcement's already come to the conclusion that ain't nobody that's crazy to try to demand money and the federal government is literally sitting on top of your neck. So one could conclude that they're just playing along with it while they search for that body. That's their main and number one goal. I think everything's centered around right now, find that body. And they believe, for some reason, or some strange reason, that the body's nearby, right? Because they're searching Nancy's property again and Annie's property again. So therefore, they think maybe, that the body's close. I don't know how they would think that. Unless they got a tip. They got 1,000 tips coming in every 5-10 minutes. So this is this would be a major story if Savannah, Annie, and both their husbands were involved in a conspiracy. Now, let's go over a few conspiracies. Let's talk about a few conspiracies. Let's talk about a few scenarios here. Okay, so let's break it down. So we have an 84-year-old woman, right, who's the mother of a very successful news anchor. Basically, she's part of the media on Today's Show. They said she's worth over $40 million with a home estimated at $1 something million. Okay. And she's also mother to another sibling, two other siblings, right? Which is her sister Annie. I think there's a brother somewhere. So, what would lead now? The thing about it is Annie and her husband were just getting by, right? They're probably inflation, a lot of bills, right? They probably didn't have the money, right? And I'm sure Savannah, you know how family, they don't like this, and Savannah's not giving up that money. So maybe Annie and her husband asked Savannah for some money. Yo, can we get, yo, sis, we doing bad over here. What's good? You know, let us get chip us off something. You know, and that could be, they're like, well, take mom out. She got an insurance policy, $1 million insurance policy, life insurance policy. Could be that just, I mean, I'm just looking at it, right? A life insurance policy. And they like, okay, this is a good opportunity, right? They probably came up with this plan. That's one method. Or could this be Illuminati, right? Could this be that Savannah sacrificed her mom for fame and fortune? I mean, they said she's worth $40 million. So she's in probably this very group of people who do sacrifices. I'm just saying, like, I mean, it could be a possibility. And they came to cash in on that sacrifice. So that's another theory. So that's two theories I got. Either Annie, the husband, needed money, and Savannah told him the mother has a life insurance, $1 million plus life insurance over her head. Boom. And their names on it. Because maybe Savannah told her mom, put Annie's name on it, because she probably wanted to put on Savannah's name on it. But she said, no, I'll put Annie because, I'm pretty good over here. And, she told Annie. But the only reason I think Savannah's involved in this, and there's one reason. First, I'm like, nah, she got some money. She got some money. But who would send 2 ransom letters to media outlets, TMZ? Just some random thing, just a random person. You're gonna say, why not send the letter right to, the person I'm dealing with, right? I'm sending it right to the daughter, right? No, they sent it to a news outlet, which tells me whoever did this is connected to the media world, which is Savannah. So that's what makes me look at her like, okay, she had to orchestrate that. She had the power. She the only one had the power to make that type of move, or give the information to make that move. Hey, do it through this way. Do it like this. Encrypt the email, send it to here, and they'll do this. So I believe Savannah gave them I'm just saying, maybe she gave them the knowledge to send the email to the media outlet. That is very 2026. Nobody does that, right? You just send a ransom letter to the people you want to pay the money, right? You don't send it to the media because that's definitely going to draw eyes to the FBI, DEA, CIA, all law enforcement. As soon as that letter comes through, they're immediately contacting. If you send a letter or email to the media, they're immediately contacting authorities. Typically, you want to send it to the people you're getting the money from, because you want to give them an amount of time so they can't. You try to tell them, if you call authorities, then this will happen if you call authorities. You need to make this transfer within this much time and get it done. And if we see any law enforcement involvement, it's over, right? That's what you typically do in the ransom situation. You threaten the people you're getting money from not to contact the authorities right away. Send the money, and then you can contact the authorities. But if you contact the authorities before you send the money, it's over, right? That's how you typically do it. You don't send the letter to media. They're calling the cops right away, immediately. Like that, you can't threaten them. So that is, to me, very suspicious that they would send a letter to TMZ, 2 letters to TMZ. So it's all a deflection. I think it's just a deflection. So is this a sacrifice? Did Savannah sacrifice her mom? I don't know. Possibly. She's worth over 40 million. She got a lot. She's high ranking member in the Today Show. I mean, fame and fortune. Her love of money is the root to all evil. Or was Annie thirsty, needed a shot in the vein, and found out that her mother, because she was taking care of her mother, maybe she saw the paper that the mother had a $1 million life insurance policy, and she saw her name on it. Maybe years ago, maybe she seen it 5-6 years ago, and she was trying to hope, probably hoping that she died sooner. Like, damn, she keep on living. She lived too long, right? And they need the money now, and so they made the move, right? Maybe the husband but I believe all 4 of them are co-conspirators, in my opinion. I just believe it. I truly believe it because the letter to the media lets me know Savannah has that kind of power pool, right? She has this. Who would think of that shit? Who would think, oh, well, send it to TMZ? Ain't no average person going to think like that who's trying to commit crime. That's never been done before in the history. That's never been done before in the history of this country. Never done before. This is the first time in the history of the country that a person sent a ransom letter to a media outlet in an email, encrypted, of course. And I'm not saying it's untraceable, it's pretty, but nobody does that because the objective of when you do a ransom letter, you're trying to get it to the people to send the money before they contact the authorities. You're trying to get them sent ASAP. And then you threaten them in the ransom letter. If you contact authorities, you're never going to see your mom again. That is how that process goes. Typically. So if you send it to a news outlet, that's literally like inviting the police in. Hey, y'all pay us the $6 million. That's like telling the police, when you send it to the media outlet, you're telling the police, we're demanding $6 million from you in Bitcoin. Like the cops are really, America doesn't pay. America doesn't pay ransoms. They don't pay ransoms. Not in America. Now, Russia, they did some exchanges. They exchanged some guy for that girl, that basketball player, the WNBA player. Yeah. But in America, for like a ransom from some small gang or whatever, some sort of gang, no, they don't pay. Never in the history of America. What's the question you want to ask, Mella? Might I ask you a question about a concern I'm thinking of? Go ahead. I'm open. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Go ahead, Mella. I'm playing detective today. I'm open for everything. What happened? What's your question, Mella? So, this is a very interesting case, though, man. This is big because if it's the Guthrie family involved in this, we know, and once again, white people are degenerate. Of course they are. Good job, Shiesty Bum. I don't agree with Shiesty Bum too much. Of course the family's involved. It's easy money. If the family was involved, the police would not be searching their properties over and over again. Flying a helicopter over that motherfucker. They brought the dogs. They brought a forensics team in. This is facts. Okay, Shiesty Bun got a little bit. Shiesty Bun got a little bit detective in it, because I was thinking the same thing, Shiesty Bun. Don't nobody commit, especially an 84-year-old woman. It's too much liability. You go from, she might die before you get the money. She might die when put in the car. All that motion and in the ocean, she's panicking and her heart rate's up. She's subject to dying heart attack. So you're right. This is a very, very, family-oriented type situation. Because once again, ain't no kidnapper finna kidnap no 84-year-old lady and then send a ransom letter to TMZ. Oh man, it could have been legit, Mel. It could have been legit. You might, whatever you did to preventive measures you took, you probably did what you had to do. So I'm gonna give you that. I don't know for sure.
Points of evidence digitally in whatever format. So let's say every time they post on Instagram, and then there's a response, and then there's an email. Every single thing is a digital trail of potential evidence. And so a lot of times you may think, oh, they're going to solve the case off of this particular point, when in reality, what the FBI is doing is they're taking all the digital artifacts and they're piecing it together in a timeline. And they're looking, okay, how can we continue to keep the lines of communication open? Again, they may have information that this is not accurate. Maybe the Guthries don't intend to pay this. We don't exactly know what's happening, but I promise you the key is communication. And what the Guthries want is they want immediacy. What the offenders want is they have been looking for time. And what Savannah did in that video, they basically are pushing their hand and they're saying, let's go. You are no longer in control. You have run out of time and we are willing to pay. So put up or shut up.
So this is about engagement with whomever may have her. But it's interesting too, Emily, if it turns out that nothing happens at 5 p.m., they don't pay the money, they don't have any more engagement, then perhaps what you have is a situation where that wasn't real. Now they can focus on something else.
Yeah, essentially ruling out.
Yeah.
But wait, I just want to sort of clarify what you said, because I want to make sure I understand. I thought the urgency is for both parties, for all parties, because of course the families want their mother back, of course, but also the alleged captors want their money. So aren't they the ones that were demanding this soon time frame? And then when you said U.S. institutions earlier, but what if, to Paul's point, the receiving institution is out of this country, then it seems, what then in terms of capturing and identifying?
That's a great question, because if it's outside of the country, then do you really think that they have Nancy's mother? Or do they really have Nancy Guthrie? So then it leads to, okay, that's probably
you just put it out, like for the Cayman Islands, right? Like something like that, like a shielded account.
Right, but to ever bring it into the U.S. to be utilized in the United States, an institution of $6 million transaction, they're going to...
There's a middle, they call it an exchange, and there's a middleman that does it, and there's a lot of scrutiny on those. And so as a result, you got to do it someplace else. And let's remember, the arrest they made, that was a knucklehead attempt. Like, your average high schooler could have broken that.
All right.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered.
In moments, we'll hear from former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan.
So we see here that right now, what the FBI and the paramilitary, which is law enforcement, the state law enforcement, are doing is, in my opinion, they're looking for the body. They want that body. That's what they want. They believe this is a homicide. Of course, they're playing along. Yeah, write the letter to they know, come on. Write the letter to these guys. They're playing along with it. Nobody sends 2 ransom letters. Not one, but 2. So that if you send 2, that chances you're likely to get caught even more. Dude, this is anybody who's even, they're just hypothetically say this has some validity to it, right? You know how nervous someone would be with the federal government involved in this, with all the resources? it would just be too overwhelming. The average kidnappers cannot handle this. They would just disregard. Fuck that money. Fuck that $6 million. Fuck that $6 million. I'm out. They would break it. It would instantly be division, because usually kidnapping involves 2 or more people, right? This is usually an organization. When you're talking something this type of magnitude, right? We're talking about taking somebody. It's usually an organization who has connections with this Bitcoin. And you got the most powerful police force on your ass. This is overwhelming. Nobody want to do that life sentence or a potential death penalty, because she dies. If she dies, right, in your hands, now you're looking at special circumstances, which is the death penalty will be on the board. So you're looking at life sentence, and then she dies. You call about death penalty phase. They're motherfuckers is abandoning this shit. Motherfuckers getting the fuck out of the country, not out of the United States. They're getting out. They're fleeing immediately. Ain't nobody gonna sit there and say, oh, well, we're gonna sit here and wait for this $6 million to hit. We Gucci. And we got Donald Trump in office, who just went to Venezuela and did some, there's some gangster shit. You think you finna a little bitty organization against the federal government? Hell no, right? Me leave that old lady right where she at, and we'd never, nigga, going underground. So we know 100% sure, we can make 100% sure assessment that there are no kidnappers on the other side of that, on them ransoms. It's too much, too overwhelming, man. This is 2026, man. They got drones. They can track everything. They can track your boogers in your nose, right? It's too much. What'd you say, Aunt Mella? Mella said, here's the thing about being paranoid in that instance. If I had overreacted and faced consequences, my piece could have been done over. Okay. Well, you did what you had to do, Mella. Guys got through it. Probably peep game. But when you're talking about kidnapping, let me tell you something. Maybe, Mella, listen, maybe somebody, but Mella, people are not going to kidnap your kid if you're not worth millions. Now, you got to be worth like minimal 10 to 50 million. Minimal. Mella, ain't nobody kidnapping your kid unless they're a pedophile or something. They trying to, and pedophiles don't even really do that, right? They just get them right there and do whatever they do and keep it pushing. They'll do an SA. But kidnapping usually involves money. Now, in a gang world, in the gangbangers, you might see some kidnappers going out because these dudes took out his homeboy, so they might kidnap his baby mama because they want him to come so they can take that, that little stuff. But they usually don't want to ransom. They just want, this is a war. But, or you get sex trafficking, right? Which is pretty much, that's all South America. New Mexico, they run that, right? They're the sex trafficking kings. But but other than that, you don't have motherfuckers getting ransomed. Only person to ransom you, Mella, you got to have millions. They got to know you got the money to pay. Because once again, kidnapping is automatic life sentence. That's life. You might get a deal for 30 to life or 40 to life, 50 to life, or just life without the possibility of parole. For what? You ain't even gonna get $1 out of it. Not $1. The government don't pay. So, well, if it was gang affiliates, Melody, was you gang banging, Mella? I don't know, right? The gang affiliates typically, they don't deal with that unless they think, once again, it's still, you have to be maybe your son or somebody who's gang affiliate, a hell of a gang member, and he got bodies and they want to take your kid or whatever, that might be. But just you, nah. You ain't no money. What? That's a life sentence, Miller. That's a life sentence. And people just don't do that.
We'll dig in deep with Stuart. First, though, senior correspondent Alicia Acuna reports live from Tucson. Alicia.
Hi, Harris. No confirmation yet on whether the family has paid that reported $6 million. And we don't know yet if that video that the Guthries released over the weekend prompted any movement by her captors. Right now, we want to give you a bird's eye view of the situation here on the ground from our Fox flight crew. You can see two sheriff's vehicles parked outside the home. This began on Sunday. The department issuing a statement saying their constant presence now is at the request of the Guthrie family. There's this septic tank that was searched this weekend as well. On Sunday afternoon, investigators used a long pole to probe inside. They were focused here for about an hour in the back of Nancy's property. On Saturday night, law enforcement returned to re-walk the terrain around the house using their flashlights in the pitch black dark of night. Then later that night, our Fox Digital team was at Annie Guthrie's.
Miller, did you call the cops, Miller, when it happened? Did you call law enforcement when it happened, Miller? If you felt somebody was trying to kidnap you, did you call? You should have called law enforcement right away to make sure that, shit right.
House. When sheriff deputies went inside, flashes of light could be seen like coming from a camera. They were coming from the garage and also from another room. The FBI is analyzing a trove of data from not only Nancy Guthrie's home, but her neighbors. This is a photo of one of the cameras removed from the outside of Nancy's house. Even if a camera like this doesn't record someone on the property, the FBI can grab what's known as unseen data.
For example, you have a lot of neighbors saying, oh, my Ring camera never registered anything. Doesn't mean that technology has not logged the ability to see it, but didn't think it was big enough to ping that app we may use. So there still could be data there. Cameras facing the Guthrie house right now show very little activity, but I promise you there's an enormous amount of activity going on the digital side.
And Harris here on day 9, still no suspects officially or persons of interest. Back to you.
Alicia, thank you. I want to bring in Stuart Kaplan now. He is a former FBI special agent, global security risk management expert, and a criminal defense attorney. Great to have you, Stuart. I want to start with the, as they've been described, kind of cryptic video appeals for the return of Nancy Guthrie. And maybe what would be cryptic about them is, first, it was emotional, so on and so forth, a lot less of that now. What is the type of communication that we are seeing publicly from that family? How would you describe it?
From my vantage point, those messages are messaging directly the source of whoever has been sending those ransom notes. Now, we don't have the benefit of being able to actually read those ransom notes. And by the way, there may be some additional messaging that, quite frankly, law enforcement or the FBI is holding close to the vest. But it seemed, at least yesterday, that messaging in a very cryptic but very specific and methodical way was responsive to specific questions or concerns from the ransom note makers or authors of that ransom note. And that's why I think that there is a lot more information that is unknown to the general public, that specifically is only known to law enforcement. And it's a cat and mouse game at this point.
Look, the money more than quadrupled. We went from 1 million in Bitcoin or thereabouts to 6 million now. The original reward was $2,500. The FBI bumped that up to 50 last week, 50,000. What do you make of the money play in this whole game?
Well, again, that money play may have been because, quite frankly, either the family resisted or pushed back, or at the direction of law enforcement was not responsive to the ransom note makers or communicators. And in retaliation for non-compliance, they now escalated or increased or heightened the threat level and said, look, we wanted $1 million. And now if you want to see your mother return to you or ever see her alive again, it's now 6 million. And I will say this, this 5 o'clock deadline cuts both ways, because if nothing happens at 5 o'clock, clearly the ransom note makers lose their credibility. And also, if the Guthrie family doesn't follow through and make that payment again, there may be some unfortunate consequences. This is going to be a game changer this afternoon at 5 o'clock.
So you're saying that they've got to pay that money before 5? $6 million.
Well, look. Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of tension behind the curtains. I will say that the Guthrie family, and rightfully so, if it's your loved one, you're willing to pay whatever it takes, whatever you could muster up or afford, even if it's a long shot. On the flip side, law enforcement is wanting to see proof of life. They want to see some additional information so that arguably you don't send $6 million to someone who disappears and they have nothing to show for it. So here again is a cat and mouse game. I will just say this to you, and I've said it from the very beginning. The advancement of technology that is in the toolbox of the FBI is like no other, certainly in 2026. Those assets and resources generally are never known or seen by the general public in a criminal investigation. I again think the breakthrough of this case will be because of the advancement in technology that the FBI has deployed in this case. Those data sets, those digital footprints do take some time. But again, I am optimistic that we are at the precipice of this case being broken wide open.
Look, I want to talk about some of the things that have actually gone on with the case. And this is not
precipice. So they're saying is they know who it is. They're saying coded, they know who it is. They know it's the family. They're not even worried. Law enforcement knows they just got to find that body and everything else will take care of itself. That's it. All they got to do is find that body and everything will take care of itself. They know who it is. They got their suspects right in front of them. They're just going to sit right there until they at least get some sort of, DNA come back that says there's something, because the DNA is just as good as the body. Your DNA in that home or her blood or something, hey, that's just as good as the body. You might lock that in. So, this is white people are degenerates. What's up? White people have that issue. They got issues. They got issues just like black people. But I always hear people say, oh, black people are the worst, black fatigue. And yet, you know what I'm saying? White people, man, they up here. Who that? Charlie Kirk just got gunned down. They try to take out Trump. I mean, white people, they got their degenerates too. They just like the niggas. Come on, man. Come on now. They just like us. They do the same thing we do. This, they just, are not as loud as we are. That's all. They're not as loud as we are.
to impugn anybody in the investigation. I mean, obviously law enforcement, military. I'm a huge supporter of the blue. But that sheriff has some problems now, because now it's come out by his own admission in one of the previous news conferences that, yeah, hindsight 2020 maybe should not have released the crime scene, which, by the way, tomorrow will have been a week ago. And then they reopened it, and then they went back out this weekend, so on and so forth. All of that could be fantastic. They're gathering things. But in the meantime, everybody trampled that space who was within, 100 miles of it. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Whoever could get there. They were walking all over that crime scene at Nancy Guthrie's house for at least a day. Fox News Digital is reporting staffing shortages delayed the launch of high-tech search aircraft for hours after Guthrie was first reported missing. How big of a problem is that?
Well, look, and I hate again, and I agree with you, I don't want to trample or bash any law enforcement officer, but let's just talk about the real world. Elderly people go missing all the time. Unfortunately, there are a lot of medical emergencies that happen where people lose their awareness and they wander off, and family members they go and find that they're no longer home. What happens is it's a routine 911 call. Local law enforcement arrives on scene and basically goes through the motions of just taking a missing person's report. It's very common. It's very routine. There are no bells or whistles or alarms that go off. In this particular case, and to your point, the preservation of the integrity of a crime scene only can happen on its first step onto that property. And there lies that you can never treat anything in this world any longer as just a routine, mundane circumstance. You have to always consider the worst case scenario. In this particular case, and by the way, the FBI was not first on scene, and I will tell you, I know they would love to have been first on scene to have preserved the integrity of that crime scene, because there really, quite frankly, is no way to go back and put it into the exact state it was when they first arrived on scene. But again, we have to move forward and we have to work with what we have.
With what we have, real quickly. Look, it's optics now. You've got a family, high profile, Savannah Guthrie. You've got the country watching, the world watching this case, which is one of the highest profile we've seen, as I mentioned, in decades. And I understand that the U of A basketball team, NCAA Division I, have stars. And I understand that the sheriff is a fan. But the pictures that show him at that game over the weekend, what did they say to you about where the priority is?
The optics are horrible. It's poor management. Look, again, but look, we all need at some point some decompression time to distract us because we're in a pressure cooker. But quite frankly, from where I sit, I think it was just a bad choice. The optics are terrible. I will say this. I think it will be impossible for him to ever rehabilitate himself to come up with a plausible explanation as to why he excused himself, knowing that he would be in a public venue and be scrutinized to the level he is right now.
And we do have those pictures. I want my team to put them up when they can. Consent search. The consent searches now. Tell us about that and what that means for this, going back to the home of not just Nancy Guthrie, but also Annie Guthrie, her daughter.
Well, I talked about that last night on another program on Fox News, and I said, look, the Guthrie family is in a situation where they must cooperate. And why must they cooperate? Because it's the Guthrie family, and because there's an expectation that if there's any resistance to cooperating, that there's going to be obvious consequences in their reputation, and there'll be negative inferences drawn. As I said last night, the only way law enforcement can get access to digital information at a relative's house is through the execution of search warrant or through the use of subpoena power. And so in order to short circuit those type of hurdles that law enforcement must go through, we need the consent of the family. And so the family seemingly is cooperating. But again, you have to wonder why law enforcement is now digging so deep into some of these family members. There has to be some evidence or something that is causing law enforcement to go back and re-engage themselves in the family several miles away.
Stuart Kaplan, so great to have you, your expertise and your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and here we go on a Monday morning. This is a critical moment, the search for Nancy Guthrie, missing for more than a week. The message the family is now sending to their mother's captor with her purported second ransom deadline said to be only hours away. So here we go. Good morning, everybody, wherever you are. Hope you're waking up with us today. I'm Bill Hemmer, waking up today in Northern California, the morning after Super Bowl 60. We'll get to all that stuff.
9 days? Shit, ain't nobody waiting around on 9 days. Shit, 9 days, that's an eternity for some $6 million. $6 million ain't even a lot of money. Not for no life sentence. Or potential death penalty. You're going to be asking for $1 billion. The fuck? Might as well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to abort. 9 days is now you're definitely. So once again, this is very. They know who it is. We all know who it is. It's the family. You can't cover up. This is when they planned this out, they didn't. It didn't go as they expected. They thought, just say, hey, our mom is missing. Boom. Send a note, give them a note, and then chase that note. But what they didn't anticipate was that people, this is 2026, nobody kidnaps nobody for no ransom. That just doesn't happen. It's probably been like, what, 60, 70 years? And if it did happen back in the day, America don't pay. America don't pay. So, nobody does these things. Like, nobody does ransoms. Nobody does it. Nobody, because it's a lose-lose, guaranteed 100% lose. You 100% they will get you. So, yeah, this family will probably be, now, if they don't find that body, we'll see what that DNA do, right? We'll see what that DNA do when it comes back. DNA is just like a body. They find a DNA mixed with the blood of Nancy's, that's a body. That's a body. They're coming after you. So, but the body itself, the physical body, arrest will then be made. You know what I mean? Arrest will be made. They will have persons of interest then. But then they're going to make everybody have alibis. So yeah, this is a very cynical, diabolical situation here, man. This is crazy, man. It's getting worse. And this not only happened to them, this is hitting me personally. Some people I know personally, a person I know personally is going down for something egregious. And crazy part about it, it's a female. You females is, I don't know, man. You females is, y'all just as bad as the dudes. But yeah, I mean, shit. I don't know, man. Let's see what they got to say. We're gonna follow this though. We're gonna follow this
stuff and take you behind the scenes throughout the next 2 hours. But good morning from California, Dana. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. Yes. Did you even go to sleep last night?
Maybe 2.5 hours.
Okay.
But listen, it's worth it. Dana, I tell you every time, it is the place in America once a year where everyone is happy with a smile on their face as they go into the venue. Depending on the outcome, a lot of those moods change, but it's just a great American moment. We're going to show you that coming up momentarily.
It absolutely is. Okay, well, we look forward to all of that. More to come on that, but let's get you to the news. Here is what we know on day 9. Police have not identified a suspect in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. Yesterday, investigators returned to her home where they were seen searching a septic tank and a manhole cover.
Yeah, you wonder what those clues might be. We'll check that out momentarily with our expert. The FBI saying the second deadline laid out in a purported ransom note is said to be later today, 5 o'clock local time in Arizona. That is 7 o'clock in New York. Now, the Guthries pledged to pay that ransom in a video message to whomever may be holding their mother, Dana.
And Nancy Guthrie and her, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings released that video on Saturday. They addressed their mother's captor directly and pled with them to bring her home.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us and we will pay.
Alicia Acuna outside Nancy Guthrie.
That even sound fake. That even sounded fake.
Now, to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Alicia Acuna outside Nancy Guthrie's home.
That sounded fake.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Alicia Acuna outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson, Arizona. Where do things stand on this Monday morning?
Good morning, Dana. This was a very busy weekend for investigators in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Let's begin with that septic tank that you mentioned. Sunday, late in the afternoon, a sheriff's deputy and another member of law enforcement went to the back of Nancy's property and they removed what looked like a man cover, and they were focused on that and on this septic tank using a pole to probe this area. They were there for about an hour and then left. On Saturday night, our Fox flight team captured images of investigators searching in the terrain once again in the dark with flashlights. Hours.
Even the way she read that letter to me, they looked like disoriented. They look, you know, they looked like they were robotic. That shit did not look real at all. They looked like they was just trying to go into the motions. Let's hear it. I want to hear it again.
This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Alicia Acuna outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson, Arizona. Where do things stand on this Monday morning?
Good morning, Dana. This was a very busy weekend for investigators in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Let's begin with that septic tank that you mentioned. Sunday, late in the afternoon, a sheriff's deputy and another member of law enforcement went to the back of Nancy's property and they removed what looked like a man cover, and they were focused on that and on this septic tank using a pole to probe this area. They were there for about an hour and then left. On Saturday night, our Fox flight team captured images of investigators searching in the terrain once again in the dark with flashlights. Hours later, investigators show up at Savannah's sister and brother-in-law's house. They spent about 2.5 hours on site. We understand the family was not there, but our Fox Digital team saw agents in there and a lot of what looked like camera flashes going off in the garage and another room. The FBI is also digging into mountains of data from not only Nancy Guthrie's home, but her neighbors. And as it was explained to us, even if a door cam didn't capture an image, the FBI can grab what's known as unseen data. And Dana, what that is that's when you have like door cam apps and they're smart enough to know if a person is there, but it has to constantly be checking to see if that's something what the user wants. So it still captures that data, and the FBI has that, and there's a lot of it, and they're going to be working on that. No news conferences so far scheduled. The Sheriff's Department says that they will have one if there's a major update. Back to you.
Okay, Alicia, thank you so much. Over to you, Bill.
And Dana, we're going to bring in James Gagliano, former FBI supervisory agent. James, good to have you back on today. Let me read you what was sent out from the sheriff's.
They're always bringing these FBI dudes in, like the FBI, like know everything. They're sloppy too. I just think the FBI is overrated, in my opinion. All you do is sit there and entrap people, right? You listen into conversations, and they do a lot of entrapment, right? A lot of entrapment. They create a lot of crime, right? Instead of getting the person when they catch them, they do it. No, they catch you and then they let you do it for a long time, right? So they can give you a long time. So they might catch you selling dope on day one. If they're taking you in custody, they want to see you. They want to see you do it all. They want to take pictures. You guys are part of the crime. That's a conspiracy, baby. You guys are part of the principle. Because they say if you don't call the police and you witness a crime, you automatically are a conspirator. So I don't know. I don't like the FBI. I don't like no police. Definitely not the FBI. They act like they know everything.
Department on Super Bowl Sunday. They said the following. They say Nancy Guthrie's investigation is ongoing, said follow-up continues at multiple locations, no suspects, persons of interest, or vehicles have been identified, no scheduled press conferences. If any significant developments occur in the case, a press conference will be called, as Alicia just said there. What do you make of the septic tank, the visit to the Circle K Convenient Mart? What is important for you right now, James, as you go back over the 48 hours this weekend?
Yeah, Bill, I think it's all part and parcel of the conduct of an investigation that has defied gravity for so long. It just doesn't make sense from so many parts of what traditional kidnappings typically entail. Again, going back to the Lindbergh baby kidnapping or Frank Sinatra Jr. or even Patty Hearst. Is this for profit? Is it for revenge? Is there an ideological bent to this? And that has not been stated or released yet. Bill, I think this is just a law enforcement team, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office, that is turning over every stone, following exhaustively every lead, literally going down rabbit holes. And sometimes that's what you have to do. I won't criticize them for going back to the house. I criticized them last week for releasing the crime scene so early. But as was pointed out at the top of this hit, you know, there's a lot of work ongoing behind the scenes on digital imagery. That stuff takes time. Was it a proxy server? Was it an IP address that was masked by VPN? Things like that take time to kind of grind through. And Bill, I think that's what they're focused on right now.
Okay, all right, James, we can take that deeper a bit later in our program, but I can tell you what we were all talking about on Saturday out here in California. It was the language of the video message late on Friday night. We will pay, and we want to celebrate her. Can you give us an understanding or an interpretation as to what goes into that?
Sure. If you listen to the three messages that have been released by the family, Bill, and they're heart-wrenching. You see a family, you know, at the end of their rope, literally beseeching the captors or the abductors to please release them. Bill, I'm still not certain that these notes, this messaging and communications from these so-called abductors can be authenticated yet. And there's a lot to this at the FBI, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, as well as the Crisis Negotiation Unit, are trying to assist the family with. Remember, we in law enforcement cannot compel a family to act in a certain way or tell them that they have to do this. It's all up to them. And Bill, here's the chilling piece of this. We're hurtling towards a deadline right now, 5 o'clock, right? Which is the second deadline that's been laid out by the supposed kidnappers. I don't even think paying the ransom money would be dispositive in this case. Could these be fraudsters? Could they be opportunists? And I think that's what the family and law enforcement is having to be forced to deal with right now.
All right, two quick last questions here. What's more significant, the first deadline or the second? Or do we get a third possibly?
They make no sense. And here's why, Bill. Typically in a kidnapping, if it follows typical protocols, there are multiple deadlines set when the kidnapper wants to show how serious they are. If you do not comply with the first deadline, you will receive negative consequences. And those, you can think about all the awful things that could happen. In this instance, where there doesn't appear to be any negative consequences, we're still not 100% certain that Miss Guthrie is alive because there's been no proof of life. And yeah, Bill, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an additional deadline. Somebody's either playing this out because A, they're trying to mask the fact that they do not have her, or they're just trying to lead the family on and try to get any money out of them that they can.
Wow, so cruel. The other point that was brought up is that the first message apparently had a request for Bitcoin, and the second message said a US dollar amount, which has led a lot of people like yourself to think about maybe this coming from outside the country. Right now, we at least do not know that. James, thank you for coming back. We'll talk real soon, all right? We'll give that family hope. Thank you, James. Dana.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. It's over. It's over. They ain't. This is my theory. if they don't find a body, or some sort of footage that shows them disposing of the body or something, whatever, or moving that body, then this will be a cold case. They probably won't crack it for another 10 years. But if they find that body, it's a wrap. So that's where it's at right now. That's where it's at. We know we've pretty much figured out this is not even a kidnapping. More of a murder. That's what this is. I still look, my theories, I don't know. Did she sacrifice her mom? Was it for the money? Did Annie need some money and her husband? Maybe they had $1 million life insurance policy on the mother that her name was on. They're looking for a lifeline. Times are hard. I mean, that's a possibility. But my only thing is, Savannah, that's to me, she seemed like she's the leader. She seemed like she's the head of the house, right? She seemed like she wears the chip on her shoulder, right? She's reading the letters. She's very forward in this investigation. So I don't know, man. Definitely a conspiracy. So definitely a conspiracy. So the facts will come out. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we just go into cold case. I think right now, their main mission, their main focus is to find that body. I think that's their number one focus, because they got enough. Everything they got enough as far as speculation is concerned. But they need the body to, examine, so the examiner can give them a better detail, and then they can go and get everybody's timelines, alibis. They can whatever. Game over. But until then, day number 9. I'm in the stream. Thank y'all for coming. Hit the like, subscribe if you're new. I'll probably get back on this a little later. I might do another stream on this. I'm gonna keep you updated. It's a pretty big case, so I like these type of things. I like trying to figure shit out. I'm like a low key, like Scooby Doo. Like I like to find mysteries. Yeah, but I'm telling you, these times, these days, people would do anything for money or clout. Thank you guys for coming. See you next time.